Yep. We're live.
All right, hold on. I gotta do my thing. It's my thing, Jeff.
Welcome to Wild Arts Podcast, episode number 21. We're here on Monday, April 15th. Jeff Stern, Michaela Jean, and Sean Adam.
Tax day.
That is what. Oh, tax day.
Patriots Day, Marathon Monday.
Big day.
Yeah.
Wow.
Ides of April, right? Is it April 15th?
April 15th.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think this is so. I want to. This is so interesting that you say tax day. It's like tweaks me out every time because like I'm the type of guy that like is so excited to get your tax return. Like I do my taxes like January 1st.
I don't get
and then people are like,
return.
oh yeah, I did like an extension in October. I'm like, what?
That's impressive.
I just don't understand like why you would want that looming over your head. But hey, like life's all about.
It's not that you want it.
No, I know.
It's just like so many things. Like I'd love to finish things 3 months early. I just don't do that.
Yeah. Well, too, like I know, like my accountant just is in over his head right now, so it's like he had to file an extension for me.
Yeah.
Is that really what happened?
Yeah, I gave him my paperwork weeks ago.
Alright, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, it looks like the weather's gonna clear up for the marathon though.
That would be nice because last year was brutal. It was like hurricane weather.
The thing I remember the most about is there's this like golden retriever that was like in a raincoat, like just on the sidelines cheering people on, and he's just like.
Were you there?
No, it's just on Facebook. It's social media.
No,
I just remember that like I could imagine like these guys like mile 18 are like brutally getting beat by like wind and rain and tiredness, and then you just got this dog that's like.
And at least if you're running, you're kind of staying warm and motivated, but just standing there watching people in like the 35-degree rain was kind of rough.
I know. It's just brutal. I mean, there was a girl I grew up with in school, and I don't think she finished or something, and she was like heartbroken, but it was like you also ran like a hurricane.
Yeah.
Like, that's like intense. You know?
Yeah. Do you run?
I run. I mean, I ran a 10K this weekend, and I'm very sore right now. So that's my level of thank you.
Yes. All right.
Yeah.
Do you ever? I real quick, we're on a tangent. But do you ever get that runner tie? Have you experienced this? Like people talk about this.
So I mean, I think high is that's a little melodramatic for me in a way. I would say as a runner is like. Feel good, you know?
Like my legs are still moving.
Yeah, I feel better than I did before I ran. You know,
right.
Like the thing with running is I'll just notice later in the day that like I'm not really pissed off right now.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm feeling like I'm in like a sort of a good mood for no discernible reason, and it's like I think that's kind of the runner's high that they talk about. You know,
I feel like there's one time of experience. I did like a lot of running and training for sports for a long time, and I did a Spartan race like 2 summers ago where I like 2 months prior I was like, oh man, I like train for this every single day, like it's gonna be great. I didn't train a single day. Not even close. And so first 1,500 feet, roll my right ankle. I'm like, oh yeah, that's not a good start. All right, we're gonna keep it going though. And the first 4 miles I was like dying. I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. This is brutal. And then mile 4, I don't know, it must have been that runner. Like all of a sudden like there's this different level of human came out, and I just started running like the wind. And I was like,
that's what you thought you looked like.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like I looked majestic. I don't think my hair was this long and flowing in the wind or anything, but it felt amazing. But
all right. Well, what a tangent to start the morning off with. Cool. Happy running day. Good morning.
Good morning, guys.
Welcome. We're here with the Jeff Stearns. You don't know who he is yet, but we'll introduce him here.
Oh, they know.
The people know.
All right, cool. So I'll introduce Jeff because we don't have to introduce ourselves to his people, and you guys know who we are, so we'll keep it simple today.
Cool.
So Jeff Stern is a filmmaker and senior lecturer in media and culture at Bentley University. His films have played all over the country, including his hometown New Hampshire Film Festival. His digital fast have received press coverage in the Boston Globe, on WBUR, and in the Portsmouth Herald. His 2016 talk at Creative Mornings went viral and inspired people all over the world to reconsider their digital habits. He lives in Portsmouth with his beautiful wife and 2 handsome sons, and can often be found performing at Beat Night at the Book and Bar. He spoke on going on a digital fast at TEDx Piscataqua in 2017. Mostly, I want to know what Beat Night is.
You guys know what Beat Night?
That was my first question too.
Okay, so we could just talk about Beat Night
for
the hour. I would be happy to promote.
Tell me.
Night.
So this is not because Book and Bar has like open mic night. I don't know Beat Night.
So Beat Night has been, so I'm new to the Seacoast. I've lived here for a little under 4 years, and Beat Night goes back, I think, 20 years, and it was at the press room in Portsmouth for the majority of its life. So Beat Night it's live band poetry. So it's like performance poetry, and the band is phenomenal. I wish I could tell you the names of the people in it. If you're like at all plugged into the Portsmouth music scene, you would be very impressed by the people who are in the band.
Okay.
But it's this like 4 to 6 piece like super tight group. So they'll have a featured poet. And then they have an open mic, and so you go up. So like, let's say you have a poem to read. You go up. You turn to the band. You say like, do something sort of like an apocalyptic groove, and they're just like, you mean like this? And you're like, yeah, exactly.
Perfect. I've been looking for something like that.
Oh, it's so great. And then and it's like, I mean, I've written and performed poetry for years, but I've never seen or gone to anything like this before.
So cool.
And it's, poetry open mics can be rough. Like, let's face it. Like, even if the poetry is good, it's just like, it demands a lot of the audience to just sit there very patiently and listen to people read their poetry.
Yeah.
But with the music, it's great.
That's really cool.
So it's every third Thursday at the Book and Bar.
Every third Thursday.
Yeah, and I've been the featured
Is that this week?
reader there. It is this Thursday. Yes. Good plug. Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
let's go. Want to go to, what's it called?
Just go to the Book and Bar.
Yeah.
You don't know what it's called.
Yeah,
It's called Beat Night.
We're just going to the
Beat
thing.
Night.
Beat
Okay,
Night.
let's go to the thing. I want
It's
to go.
great.
You're the featured poet?
I am not this time. I was last year. I was, but I'll be there. I always try to go and read.
poetry too?
Yep. It's like an open mic. You get 3 minutes. That's what's
I
great.
wanna
You get
go
up there, you
to
do your
this.
thing.
Exactly like that.
Yeah.
And it's so cool because it's like you'll get like high school kids and like 75-year-old guy who wanders in. Like it's like this amazing cross section of people that there's a few regulars, but it's a great place to go to sort of like see the other side of this area. Like it's always people you've never seen before.
I've been looking for something like this.
It's
I
great.
didn't know this existed.
Do you do poetry?
I don't. I've always wanted to like read poetry out
Yeah.
loud, but it's like outside my comfort zone.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta say, the band makes you feel like it's like the music is so good that it makes you feel more confident about doing it. Yeah, and you can read other people's stuff too. You don't have to read your own. So if you want to like ease into it.
So cool. Oh
Yeah.
gosh, I love that.
So it's great. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
As you can see, Jeff is very cool.
Yeah. And as you can see, we just keep going on tangents this morning.
Oh,
I feel like we took away from like the awesomeness that is Jeff.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny. I just want to say this real quick. I like did a little teaser on Instagram this morning telling people that if they were interested in fasting, that they should tune in this morning.
Oh.
So I'm wondering how confused people are right now.
They're probably
Yeah, we haven't
confused.
said
Yes, I'm not going to talk about diet solutions at all today.
I mean,
No
this could
juice
be
fasting.
in all fairness though. Before we release what this is, being healthy isn't just about what food you consume.
True that.
You know what I
Pretty
mean?
true.
So technically, you might be giving some good diet advice, just in a little bit.
Okay. All right.
Stay tuned.
We'll expand that definition.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So Jeff, why don't you just kind of tap in and give the people a little bit more detail about your story, how you got to where you are, and then we'll talk about what this.
Sure. I mean, I'll keep this kind of brief, and you guys can follow up on things that you want to. So I don't know. I was born in Pittsburgh.
There you go. Great story. Yeah.
I was born in Pittsburgh. I grew up in Ohio. We moved around a bit, but I'm basically a Midwesterner.
All right.
And yeah, I have a younger brother. I don't know where exactly to go with my story. I mean, one thing I'll tie to Beat Night is I've always pursued creative stuff. Like that's definitely a through line in everything I've done. It took me a while to take it seriously, I think, and I have a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old now, and it's interesting to sort of see kids growing up for a lot of reasons, but it's like it makes you sort of think about like, so what was I doing when I was 7 and 9, And it definitely takes you a while. I think unless you're a certain kind of person, it takes you a while to take yourself seriously as a creative person,
Yeah, I get it.
I was certainly not the kind of kid who was like, I'm going to be a filmmaker, I'm going to be a writer. I think I was like, I'm gonna do business, you know, like I'm gonna carry a briefcase to work and do sort of like what my dad does. I don't really understand what he does, but that's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah. But when you were younger, like, were you doing things like creative things,
Always.
like writing and filmmaking?
Always. I just thought of it as like things that were fun in the same way that you think of like kicking a soccer ball is fun, but you don't think that you're going to be or at least I didn't think this means I'm going to be a professional soccer player.
Yeah.
This is just what you do, you know. But I always, you know, I was in bands from a young age. I was very lucky to have a good friend of mine who lived in the neighborhood, or in the backyard adjacent to mine. He had like a video camera, and we made movies from a very young age. You know, I, for some reason, put together like an advertising portfolio, like of just like ads that I made. I was just always doing that kind of stuff.
Cool, though.
But it took me a while to make the leap to, I want to be professionally a creative person.
Yeah.
But eventually I got there, and now I'm a filmmaker, and I'm a professor at Bentley University where I teach film.
Talk to me about, so the one thing I love, that transitory phase, you know, like where you're like, oh, I'm just doing it fun. All right, now I want to get paid for this. Can you talk about that experience? Because I know even for myself, like, just like I was like doing speaking events, like, and I was all fired up and I was just doing it to do it.
Yeah.
Because to give back, and now I'm like, yes, this is what I do. And it was like, wow, it was like quite the interesting emotions that came up with that transition.
Yeah.
Like it takes on something completely different.
I think the thing that happened for me before I got to this is what I want to be my career is I had to take myself sort of seriously as an artist, and even be able to say, like, when someone says, what do you do? Say, I'm a writer or I'm a filmmaker, you know, like I think, you know, you meet people, and, you know, I still do this sometimes. It's like, so do you write poetry? You're like, well, I'm a poet. You know, it's like you have to put the quotes on and then sort of undermine yourself, you know, even though I actually believe, because I write poetry and I like my poetry, I'm comfortable calling myself a poet. I don't make money at it, but it's like, I think you should allow yourself to use that language if you feel authentic about that, you know? So I think what happened to me, I think when I was a sophomore in college, for me it was about meeting the right people. You know, I didn't necessarily grow up with, I mean, my parents are great, but they're not artistic at all, really, you know, and so they don't really understand that world. And they've always been very supportive, but it was like, I think you need to meet the people who are like, who think of themselves that way and want to do that as well, and then you sort of see the path for yourself. So that happened to me. I was lucky to meet kind of a artsy, freaky group of people in college, and that was sort of like, all right, I don't see myself going back on that other path I was on now. It didn't mean I had anything figured out, but I think that first step is like committing to it yourself. You know, I'm going to find a way to do this with my life.
Absolutely. So I think the question I have next is, you know, tell us about, so you got into this creative world, like what brought about the digital fast? Like where was that born?
Yeah, so I mean, I think the thing that's funny about making this transition where we are in the conversation is, I mean, I'm a filmmaker, I use technology, it's central. I'm a filmmaker and I teach film, so it's like I'm surrounded by devices and technology, and I'm on my stuff all day long. But that's kind of what led me to the digital fast, is feeling that sort of frantic, overwhelmed feeling that I'm guessing I'm not the only one who has experienced with your technology, where it's like you're just sort of fried all the time. And there's this feeling I'll have at the end of a particularly intense day, for lack of a more specific term, on the internet, right? You're just like, you've just been like consuming stuff all day, and I just feel kind of strung out, you know? Not exhausted like when you run a race, which is a good kind of exhausted, but just kind of like worn out. It's almost like hungover, you know? And it's a terrible feeling, you know? So I started to notice that I was having that feeling, and then I think the thing that triggered it for me was when my first son was born. So he's 9, so 9 years ago. I didn't have a smartphone at that time, and I got one because I wanted to be able to take really nice pictures of him and share them. I I did, and my plan with that was to just use it very, very purposefully. You know, it's like, this is just a camera. This is just a really, really nice camera. I'll take a picture, and that's all I'm gonna do. I'll share it later. And that lasted for like a week. And then it's like, you know, I mean, everybody probably can remember when you first got that amazing
Look at all
device.
the things it does.
Yeah, it's like, you know, you're like, look at the compass. Like even the stuff that's not even that exciting, you know?
Yeah.
And then the stuff that's really cool,
Yeah,
you know, you're just, how can you resist that, you know? And I got totally absorbed in it, just like people do. And I kind of, not overnight, but very quickly became like a person who was addicted to it. And, you know, started kind of checking out, you know, you're with your infant kid and there's all these like amazing sort of moments you have with this little human. And I was not experiencing those. Like I was over here and, you know, I became that person who's a dangerous driver and a bad conversationalist, all the things that, you know, you hear people talking about. And that led me as a teacher to want to say, I want to dial this back for myself, and I also want to think about doing this with a group of people, you know, because like as a teacher you have this power to make people do what you want, you know. It's like, you guys are my students, I'm going to turn this into an assignment, so we're going to go on a digital fast. Like that was kind of my thinking with it, right? It's like, I'm going to do this, so I'm going to take my college students and have them go on this experience, and we'll read about it and we'll turn it into an assignment. So I found all this great writing. There's this, my favorite author on this subject is this guy, Douglas Rushkoff, who is a media scholar who teaches, I think, at Columbia in New York. And he's amazing. I recommend him highly. And he has this great book called Present Shock, which is now 5 or 6 years old. He's got a new book out called Team Human, which I haven't read yet. But he's like an evangelist for digital mindfulness, you know, and he's like me. He's a technical guy. He's not a Luddite. I think that's something that gets, I hear from some people, it's like, well, that's easy for you because you're a Luddite. Like it's easy to, are you guys familiar with the
I was
Luddite?
like, what is that term? I'm like,
Okay, no, I'm so.
Did you like see our faces go? What?
I was like, obvious. I was like,
It's funny. It's I've been called it so many times that I just assume people know what it is.
Yeah.
No.
So
tell them.
the Luddites were people in the mid 1800s or maybe a little earlier during the first industrial revolution who
The
were.
teacher's coming out of you, just so you know.
I know,
Here
it's
it
so
goes.
cool. That's great. I love it.
All right.
Luddite, Luddite. And they were anti-technology, partly because they felt like the machinery was going to replace them, and they would break into factories and destroy the assembly lines and the equipment. So a Luddite is somebody who's like, now in our 2019 parlance, a Luddite is just someone who is anti-technology.
Takes your phone.
Oh my god,
Yes,
this
exactly.
is so interesting.
Exactly.
I have to like interject here because now there's like a whole new, like speaking of technology, like AI, right?
Right.
Because like, to be honest, I might be a Luddite. Like, no, I'm kidding, but
Sure. Oh yeah, of
but
course.
like,
Well,
so AI technology, they're building like it's artificial intelligence. So
Oh.
Elon Musk talked about this, where like, super smart guy, even he's like, you know, like, who's to say that artificial intelligence doesn't see us as the inferior being in what was that? You know, like, there's a lot of like fear associated with that, and it's probably similar to what these Luddites
And that's the absolute kind of dystopian nightmare version of it, but a much more kind of practical thing that is starting to happen and will most likely continue to happen is like, I just heard this podcast the other day about how Stop and Shop is starting to use robot shelf stockers and people to clean the floors, and it's kind of like this is replacing the janitorial staff, this is replacing kind of the lower level employees at places. That's happening in every industry all over, you know, and it's like, it seems like 50 years down the road, but it's the next 5 years, you're gonna start to see this stuff replacing people's jobs, and you understand on a very practical human level why that would make people furious and desperate and possibly break into places and destroy machinery, you know? It's like, it's not all dystopian like fantasy.
No.
It's just history repeating itself.
Yeah,
But I think-
and I guess the question is, does it play out in a way where humans have no jobs anywhere, or is it the kind of thing where we get integrated into this new kind of workforce where there are jobs repairing those things and maintaining the AI, right? It's not necessarily the end of humanity, but some people think it is.
I feel like, I feel like we're back in the coffee shop. I'm so excited.
Yeah, no, it's so
I don't want to
interesting.
even let you have a turn right now.
Well, it's just so interesting because like you see so many you see more like entrepreneurs these days, like people
Right.
kind of creating jobs out of quote unquote nothing,
Right.
And like you see a lot more of that. So I think too, while it is taking away from jobs, like people are becoming more innovative, and I think as like our generations are shifting, like each generation kind of has like their own thing and their own. I feel like our generation is now in this place of starting all these like kind of random
Right.
jobs and turning them into things and kind of like creating jobs from like random little niches.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and I think that's the way history's always gone, right? It's like
Yeah.
everything that is some kind of a low point or a setback eventually becomes an opportunity for some group of people. And I think we'll just see what happens, you know? I mean, we don't really know where this is going to go, but you're absolutely right that there's definitely a world in which this is maybe a good thing. you
Yeah.
know?
Perception is everything, because in my eyes, I think this is the way I see it personally, because there's all kinds of different perspectives on this, and I think it just depends on where you're at. And my perception is this: I watch the Gaia Network, which is like a spiritual network, talks about human, like all kinds of stuff, and basically a lot of them talk about how like the human potential is like infinite, like you can't even reach it, right? But we're like, a lot of human beings are operating here. So in my eyes, this technology that's replacing these low-level jobs is forcing human beings to evolve. Like it's forcing you to evolve beyond stocking shelves. And not to say this again, that could be
That's cool.
that could be God's work for you, like, or Spirit's work for you, and like you should treat it as such. But I just think that I believe every single human being on this planet is capable of so much. Like we're more powerful than we can ever imagine. So like when I look at someone that is stocking a shelf or that's like a janitor, it's like, that's fine. The judgment is I don't even know if it's a judgment, but it's like, is this all you're capable of?
Sure.
Is this all, like, it's a belief in your mind.
Sure.
So now you're being forced, like, with this stuff, because Amazon's doing the same thing. Their entire warehouses are stocked with robots.
Yeah.
So it's taking away these jobs where, like, you're really not pushing yourself. Like, this is just something that's easy and comfortable. To now you're being forced to maybe become a creative or really push what you think is possible for yourself. So you can look at it both ways, but I personally think it's great for humanity because it's going to push us to rise.
I mean, I think in a ideal world, I totally agree with you. I think where it gets tricky is that you're right. I don't think anybody's dream is to be a shelf stalker.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think that's a condescending thing to say. I think everybody would aspire to a more satisfying kind of work.
Yeah.
The problem is that I think some people, for various reasons, don't have the ability to do much else. Whether that's what their lot in life is, or
You could have kids. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
You were not able to afford the education that gets you, X, Y, and Z. So that's where it gets tricky, right? I think where the people, the kind of like labor level jobs. Where are these people gonna end up? Yeah. But so if I can tie this back to the digital fast,
please do. Yeah, so good.
I think one of many reasons why I guess I could take a step back and explain the digital.
I was just about to say that. Yeah, that'd be great.
So taking it back to this class that I created, the sort of parameters that I came up with for the digital fast is it's 48 hours. Like I sort of played with like, could it be a week? Should it be like 4 days? But I think a weekend, for a lot of reasons, is something that many people can do. Like, people aren't going to take off work to do something like this necessarily. So if you think about it, it's 48 hours. The way I've set it up is you start Friday, somewhere in the 5 or 6 o'clock range. You go till Sunday, 5 or 6 o'clock p.m., right? So it's this 48-hour break from your phone, your computer, any kind of internet, social media, video games, Netflix. Like I had to make this list very specific because college students try to nail you on technicalities. They're like what about my Apple Watch? Like, what about my what if I go to a gas station and there's like one of those screens? It's like, well, if it's thrust in front of you, what are you gonna do? But it's like the stuff that you can control, you shut down or remove from your menu of options for that weekend. And then you just sort of like, you figure out how you're gonna live, right? It's like maybe you need to use an analog map. Maybe you have to make plans on Thursday for Saturday. You know, it's kind of like some of my students were like, "You're just angry that your life sucked when you were our age, so you're making us go through that." You know, like because you didn't have
I
face.
can see where they're
right?
coming from with that though. Like,
Totally.
Not that I think your life sucks. But, like I can see I can see why they bring.
But
that
I
up.
also think, because we talked about this last time, though, like there's just so much freedom and like, because I remember we specifically talked about this. You said like you make plans now and you're texting, so I'm gonna be 5 minutes later, almost there, or something wicked stupid. Because we also talked about with the advent of technology, I think there's also like more flakiness, to be honest with you.
Oh my
Well,
gosh.
it affords you that option,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I think more extreme versions are like, you can just decide to end a relationship with somebody with a text, you know? It's like, I would like to think that, I mean, I've never had that experience because I'm old enough that I wasn't really dating in the era that we are living in now. But I can imagine that I don't know if you guys have experienced that, but like, it's like,
I've done it.
But the thing is, like, you're not alone, right? It's like because you can do these things, it's just very easy to do it, and that's where I think tying the sort of digital habits to things like eating habits or other lifestyle habits there's a real connection to be made there. It's sort of if you have all the food in your refrigerator, what is to stop you from eating it? Like if you really want to remove things from your life, you sometimes have to remove them from your things you can have an option of doing.
Yeah.
So that's why I think that the sort of, for me, and what I do when I do this is I shut down my phone and I put it in a drawer. Like I can't have it on my person. I can't really even have it in my sight, you know, because it's too tempting. And that's something I always try to remember to make clear is I am as addicted as any other person, you know, like I haven't figured this out. It's an ongoing problem that I have. And so I try to go on these regular fasts for several reasons. It's like, and I don't think there's not one point to doing it, and there's not one lesson that everybody will learn. Like I think tying this back to what we were talking about with AI, one thing that's good about taking like a 48-hour break is it gives you a chance to sort of like reflect on this stuff, you know? When you're in the stream of just constantly posting and sharing and commenting and consuming, it's very hard to be reflective about like where we are in that moment, you know? Like, should I be sharing everything all the time? Like as a parent, you know, sometimes I'll take a step back and it's like, I never asked my kids if they want their pictures up on Facebook, you know, and there's lots of them up there now. And at some point, they're probably going to be pissed about that. I think I probably would be, you know, and I think going on a break from it is an opportunity to just kind of reflect on that. Like, am I okay with this stuff? Or like, what exactly is happening to my information? Yeah. All of these things I click agree on, you know? I'm not saying you're going to get answers by going on a 48-hour digital fast, but it gives you a chance to sort of think about all these things. And I think some people come away from it with decisions like, I'm going to take Facebook off my phone. I think I spend a little bit too much time on that. I think maybe I post and share a little bit too much, and I'm going to limit that to like an hour in the morning. Or like something that, a decision I made the last time I went on a digital fast was, I'm not going to check my phone first thing in the morning when I wake up. I'm going to give myself like a 15-minute buffer, just going to have my cup of coffee. I get the newspaper. So I think we were talking about this when your dad does this, but like, and I'm not saying that everybody does that, but it's like, what is your version of just easing into your day? You know, instead of like waking up and just doing this and getting hit with, holy shit, Trump did this while I was sleeping. And now my mood. Exactly. And it's like, yes, he did that, right? That happened, and you could make the argument that you should always know what's going on in the world, but you do sleep. You don't have information like coming into your brain while you're sleeping. So you at least acknowledge that for 6 to 8 hours or however long you sleep, you're gonna not be checked in on things. And could you extend that 15 more minutes in the morning? Or like an hour before you go to bed? Or on Sunday morning? You know, it's like, can you give yourself the license to not be plugged in when you're having dinner with someone who's important, right? Those are the kinds of things that like, I think those are the habits that can change when you go on like a more intense 48-hour break.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's all about awareness too, because there are so many things going through my mind.
So much gold right now. Can I say something real quick? Just before, hold that thought.
Yeah.
I just want to like throw it out there. If anybody has any questions or any insight or thoughts or anything that they want to like comment right now, because this is such a cool topic, feel free to like comment and we'll check that in a little bit.
Yeah, and I just want to say,
Sorry.
I think I like the I won't use the word irony, but I think I like that we're having this conversation using there's 3 devices, 4 devices right there, and messages coming in. But I think that's great because we're using the tools in like a purposeful way to talk about this. You know, so I just want to be clear that I don't think we're being hypocritical.
No.
No, oh my gosh, not at all.
No,
I think this is what is great about this technology, and this is what it's for.
But realistically, this is kind of like an experiment, and the intention behind it, in my eyes, from what I see you doing, is to create awareness. Like, it's not to judge. It's like, yeah, dude, like, I was missing. Yeah. I love, like, for me, I really appreciate your, like, authenticity and your ownership and accountability of, like, yeah, like, I was missing out on my infant son's, like, some important moments. Like, calling yourself out. So it created this need to, like, want to do this social experience. And I think it's beautiful because so many things, like, so when you talk about Facebook, I read an article many years ago that said Facebook's more addicting than cocaine, which is like one of the most addictive drugs is out there. So it's like, when you start to have awareness of these things, like, you need to almost, knowledge is power, right? Like, if you're just unaware of what you're doing. Like, and then we had this conversation, and I'm gonna call myself out. I knew I spent a lot of screen time on my phone, and then one day I checked out the statistics, and it was like 6.5 hours. That's 25% of my waking life on a screen. Like, I wanted to throw up. That's disgusting. It's just straight up on.
50% of your awake time.
I'm up for 18 hours today. I don't know what you're talking about. So I guess it's 33%. Whatever.
It's not a math podcast.
I like to win so much.
Jesus.
But yeah, I mean, I think with the addiction thing, like that's another thing that you sort of notice when if you can pry the thing out of your hand for a little bit of time. Like a thing I noticed going on a digital fast, and I think I shared this with you guys when we met for coffee. So we like to do, when we do the digital fast weekend, we'd make it like a community event, and we'll talk about this, but we're doing this in Portsmouth in a couple weeks, where there's like a ceremonial shutting down of your phone, right? It's like 5:30's coming, we got a minute left, okay, 10, 9, 8, and then everybody shuts it down.
One last message.
Exactly, and it's like, say goodbye to the world, you know? But I had this very amusing to me, but very real thought as I was shutting my phone down. It's like, I want to take a picture of myself shutting my phone down, share it to social media, and then read all the likes and comments that's going to get. And then you're legitimately annoyed that you can't do that. Like, you've been off of it for a minute and you're already super angry about it, you know? That, I think, is a little bit what the sort of addiction feels like. It's like, why can't I do this all the time? And then you realize, like, well, I guess I'm just gonna have to be with the people in this room right now, you know? And if that makes you really angry, I think you sort of have to examine those feelings a little bit.
But
if you're angry about just being at the party that you're at with these 30 amazing people and having this great time, but that's not enough for you, somehow you need the validation of like the outer world and all of that stuff. Like, I'm not saying I don't do that too, and I'm not saying that that's not fun, but every once in a while, can you just be at the party or just be at the Red Sox game or whatever you're doing?
Well, here's okay, so now we're gonna get into some deep stuff.
Yes, bring it on.
So I think while we're talking about can you just be there with those people, well, now that you've taken the phone away and you're with these people, you're gonna get to see, am I truly connecting with these people? Is there really something here? Is this person in alignment? And you know, that's actually terrifying because you might find out that literally, like, your friends, 30 of them around you, you might have nothing in common with them. And you might realize that the reason why you're reaching for your phone is like, this conversation's boring.
Yes.
Or I'm not engaged, or there's really not a connection here. And oftentimes, so I'm just gonna bring this while we're talking about addiction, I found that with like alcohol, and you know, I did smoke weed at one point. Like, I'm sober like 110 days, and once you take away, there's nowhere for the feelings to hide. And I used to realize, like, when I, like, my go-tos for, like, if I'm bored or not engaged or not connecting with someone is drink a beer or be on my phone. And those are, for me, like, I have awareness around that where, like, those are my telltale signs that, like, I'm not engaged, I'm not interested, like, this just isn't working for me. And so I think it's just a space, again, it's just a space to create awareness, and, like, it can be scary, but don't you want the truth? Like, some people don't. Some people would rather live in a fantasy world where they think everything's okay, but oftentimes taking things away shows you the truth of what reality really is.
And there's nothing wrong with feeling socially awkward or uncomfortable. I mean, most people experience that. Like, some people are just truly outgoing and they're just comfortable in whatever situation. There's nothing wrong with feeling like a little bit like, I don't want to make eye contact now. But I think it's kind of like, at what point is it that, and at what point are you kind of crossing over into it replaces most of your interactions, and you're actually missing out on things that would actually be like pleasant social experiences because you're just not you're not paying attention, you know, or you're allowing things to constantly be interrupted by what? How many of the messages that you get pinged with are important? You know, that's something that Douglas Rushkoff says in Present Shock is the way we live now, where we're in this constant state of emergency, he says, it was a way that only air traffic controllers and emergency room doctors used to live. They were the ones who really like, I'm sorry, I really have to check this message. You know, like this could be a plane crash or someone who needs heart surgery. We treat like, you fill in the blank, whatever message you just got on your phone, like that. You know, we let ourselves be interrupted by that stuff. And you know, and I've had this conversation with my students, who's like, but what if my mom really is, well, and you brought that up too, right? It's like, you're right, it could be. And that's something, I don't know what the answer to that is. Because you brought up this really interesting scenario about going on the digital fast, where it's like, I'd like to do it, but I need to be in touch with my parents, right?
Well, it was like, it's this like, there's so many things. There's so many things in my head. Well, it's like, first of all, I think there's so many things coming back to awareness that, like, if you do, even just if you spend 3 hours at a gathering or an event or something without your phone on you and like without like looking at it and turning it off or whatever, like so many things can come up, and it might be that you are uncomfortable in your own skin and you feel awkward and you don't want to make eye contact with people. It might be that you're realizing that you just like don't relate to anybody in the room and you feel like the conversations are boring you, or you just like can't be a part of them. It might bring up fear about your loved ones. Like there's so many different things that can come up. So I think what's so cool about this fast is that you will begin to see what those things are for you personally, and why is it that you grab the phone? Is it because you're terrified? Is it because you feel uncomfortable? Is it because you feel like you have more to say or you don't relate to the people around you? Like there's so many things that can come up, which I think is why it's so cool, because it's not going to be the same thing for everybody else. And in different moments, it's going to be something different for everybody else. Because if you're out at the bar with a group of friends and you can't grab your phone, it might not be because you feel uncomfortable socially, it might be because the conversation doesn't relate to you and you don't feel like you have anything to say. Or in a different scenario, it might be like, I don't know where my mom is, like what the heck, like I haven't heard from her in 12 hours. And we did talk about that, because I think I mentioned when we got coffee this idea of, I found myself one day just going for a walk, realizing I didn't have my phone with me, and just like walking the dog, and I was like, oh shoot, like I really wish I had my phone. Like what if something happens to somebody, you know?
And it's, this guy too that you're talking about, it's like this like rut, but like see how that like that instant panic, or I think something I've tried to do is like, dude, just because you text me, like I don't need to instant respond. There's literally like this expectation that has been like born with that. Whereas like when you were a kid, like I remember like I memorized everyone's phone number, and I was like, left a message on Friday, I don't hear back till Sunday. Oh, like we were away. Like I didn't like have a heart attack. I wasn't like, oh Matt must hate me. Like he's not my friend anymore. It's like, oh, he's just not home. Like,
And I will admit, this is probably an easier thing for me to do, because I was in my 20s when the internet became a thing, right? So I have like a whole lifetime, or at least part of a lifetime of experience without this stuff. And I think like for my kids, when they're a little older, this is going to be really hard. And I think, for people who are younger, I get that it's like, because it's two things, right? It's like, on the one hand, you're right. It's like, how hard is it just to memorize people's numbers and communicate with people in a more gradual, mindful way? But the other factor is, it's not just a decision you make. it's the world that we all live in.
course.
So it's like
It's
everyone,
consciousness.
like you can decide to opt out, but the world isn't. The world is still trying to hit you with messages all the time, and you're deciding. It's almost like you have to be disciplined with yourself, but also in getting the word out to other people that like, hey, I'm not going to be as available this particular weekend. But almost like you would if you went on like a up to the woods of Maine or something, where it's like there's no service, you can't reach me right now, or like an out of office message of some kind,
So this is interesting because I did this in a, I guess, more subtle way one day last week, and it's funny because she was on the other end of it, which is so great.
It drove me crazy.
I'll be honest, like,
but only for
I
a
do
specific
respond to you
reason.
like very quickly.
Yeah.
Like she's one of the humans where like I do like we're in business. There's a lot of reasons why,
Yeah.
but I put my phone on airplane mode. No one can hate you.
Right.
I'm on an airplane, man.
Right.
7 hours. It was. Oh
Yeah.
my god! It was the most like beautiful like.
I disagree.
Can't touch. For me, I was like literally like the no, can't touch this.
Yeah, but can you tell the people what happened during those 7 hours?
Oh well, yeah, we signed the contract for the Blue Bus.
Something we've been waiting for
Yeah.
like a week showed up,
Right.
and he was
As soon
in
as
no
I was
man's
just like,
land.
hey, I'm gonna live my life and not be like
Right.
sitting on the edge of my seat for this contract. It's like, just gonna like,
Did it end up being a bad result?
No, it was a beautiful result. Like no one died. I
Yeah,
mean, she was
you
just
just
like, I
didn't
can't.
get it. Yeah.
No, she was like, I
Just like
can't
a very
get it.
exciting thing happened for us, and he was like not reachable.
Yeah, I was just not.
But it was just
reachable.
exciting a little later, right?
It was just-
Didn't-
yeah.
Well, exactly. That's exactly my point. And
Exactly.
honestly,
Exactly.
because I want to go back to the feeling you talked about of this like, what did you say, like an anxious, drained or something from being on the phone, like when we
Oh
first-
yeah, just kind of strung out.
Yeah, like
yeah.
there's times where literally like I want to talk about that feeling because there's times where like sometimes I'm just like scrolling shit. I'm like, what am I looking for?
Right.
Like, what
Oh,
am
yeah.
I looking for?
Oh,
like
that.
that mindfulness of like that moment where you've been on there for like 20 minutes. You're like, what am I hoping to find
Oh,
in this
yeah.
moment? Like, I'm probably looking for some kind of comfort from myself. Yet I'm looking for it in a phone. And then there's times where I just literally want to like huck it in this river.
Yeah.
Like I can't. Like there's times where I want to like punch my phone in the face.
There's another I would say incentive or just aspect of this that I always forget about when I put my stuff away for a concentrated period of time, which is the value of boredom. Like the
Yeah.
importance of boredom, especially like I was talking about earlier, how I do a lot of creative stuff. I do a lot of writing, and I can remember having jobs when I was younger where I didn't have my phone, like kind of like a retail job or like a drudgery kind of a job.
Yeah.
And I think now that just means like time to scroll, right?
Yeah.
Play games on your phone, do
100%.
whatever. But without that, I would write stuff. I'd write song lyrics. I would or I would just space out. And it's not like it's this necessarily this amazingly creative, fertile time all the time. But it's like I remember living in Boston when I was going to college and just riding the T for like 45 minutes to get from my apartment to school, and staring at people on the subway or looking out the window or just staring at stuff. And it's like you get ideas.
Yeah.
Like that is. I think certain kind of people can just sit down and find inspiration and write when they're or whatever you're doing, like you're trying to solve some kind of a engineering problem or whatever it is in your life that you're stuck on.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like I'll be out going for a run, I'll be going for a walk, I'll be waiting in line for something, and like your mind is just turning these things over. If you replace that mental space with like the game that you have on your phone, I think you're missing out on that, like the processing power of your brain.
Well, like the amount of like information that comes into our brains these days is like so. Even going back to like remembering your phone, like people's phone numbers when you're like 10, 12,
Yeah.
whatever. Like your brain wasn't getting hit with as much information back then.
Yep.
So it's like you were sitting in the back of your car, like driving to soccer practice,
Yep.
remembering
Right.
like Susie's phone number,
Yeah.
like because it was the thing that you had to do. And you're like, if I want to call her and invite her over this weekend, I have to remember
Yeah.
her phone number. So it's like you spent like your free time kind of doing things like that, as opposed to sitting in the back of the car scrolling and taking in more and more information,
Yeah.
which kind of creates less it's like an overload. So when you do have those moments of boredom, you have like a lot of extra stuff going on in there, as opposed to like the more important stuff.
Yeah, and you feel like something's missing if you can't, grab your tablet or your phone during downtime. It's like I mean, I think we've all had that experience where you're somewhere that you have to wait, the airport, whatever, and your phone is dead or what, or
So this is interesting interesting because I recently met my parents for dinner, and got there literally like they sat me 30 minutes before my parents got there. So I was just like sitting at a table by myself in the middle of a restaurant, and I was like, I spend so much time on my phone, and I didn't want to be on my phone.
Right.
So I put my phone away, and I was like, I just don't even want to be here. But it was so interesting because like I was seated like at the back of the restaurant, just like looking around at people, and I was like, I realized after a little bit of time that people kept staring at me.
Right.
And I was like, why are they staring at me? And I was like, okay, well, probably because I'm sitting here by myself, but also like I'm not doing it.
Exactly.
Like I'm sitting in a space doing nothing. Of course people are gonna look at me because it's weird.
It didn't used to be as weird as it is now.
But now it's weird.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I know.
It's like if you go to a coffee shop or something, I think we talked about this. Like now everyone at a coffee shop is on their phone, or like granted you're out to lunch and talking to people, but people don't just go to coffee shops and sit.
Exactly, like they're just like eating their apple pie and drinking some coffee. Like you really don't see that.
And people who are doing that look weird and out of place.
Right. Yeah, and I think I had a point about this, and I think I lost it. I'll do this challenge. Like if I'm out to dinner with my wife and she goes to the bathroom, I will give myself this challenge. Like I'm not going to take my phone out.
Yeah.
I'm just going to sit here for 3 minutes and just. I don't know what I'm going to do. Let's see what happens.
People start to stare at you. I'm telling you, especially after 30 minutes.
But it's hard because it's like grabbing. It's like I gotta have a drink. I gotta light a cigarette. It's like that kind of like it's
that anxious.
Totally in that same category.
Yeah.
I think it's so interesting. Like I love this topic because just as there is with anything in this world, there's dark and light to it.
Yeah.
And like on the dark side, right, there's this like I've been on dates where like the chick pulls out a phone and I'm very vocal when something pisses me off.
Yeah.
I've literally been like, oh, I can leave if you want to like date your friend.
Right.
Literally, I've said that, and they're like, oh god. You know? It's like, dude, like that is, because I think the most valuable gift someone can give you is their presence, especially in today's day and age. And like,
well, it says so much.
Well, exactly. It's
you're sending a message when you take out your phone.
Yeah, it's like,
and sometimes that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, if that's how you really feel, I guess that's good.
Right.
But like, dude, are you here? You're not. We've been here for 10 minutes.
Or a different reaction. Like if you were a different kind of person, you might be like, oh, I'll take my phone out too. I'm okay with us having this kind of a interaction.
I refuse. Like
I did this, but I actually probably think I've said that exact same.
Or you wanted to, like, I mean, it's just rude, you know. But again, I wanted to talk about the dark and light, but there's also like, you know, and I also think back to when I was a kid, right? Just like we were like going on vacation up in the White Mountains, like I'm not scrolling to see what everyone else is doing, and I was just so happy about life. And now it's like I find myself sometimes where I'm like, sometimes you're inspired by van life and like all these other cool things people are doing, and then other times you feel like shit about yourself because you're like, I just went to work today, dude. I just served at a restaurant.
Being aware of who you're following on these social platforms.
Yeah, and yeah, I think we should take a moment and be clear that like the technology, the devices are, I mean, they're miraculous and they do so much good, especially for people who don't have communities. I mean, there are people who, for various reasons, can't leave the house or don't come in contact with people, and it's life-saving for them, you know. And that's just one example. I mean, I do love that I can take these beautiful pictures wherever I go, because that's a gift that you have, that you can do that, or that I can listen to a song whenever I want to. I mean, it's not black and white. It's not like it's all bad or all good. But I think, yeah, exactly. It's like I think the easiest way I've come upon to explain it is like it's a tool. It's a whole bunch of tools contained in one tool, and you should use the tool that you want to use, and then put the tool away. You know, if you want to take a picture, take the picture, and then put the camera away.
I mean, and it's funny because like I said, there's times where I want to throw my phone in the river, but like yesterday, I was serving at the restaurant, it was slow, and here's my plug for Tiger Woods.
Oh jeez.
Tiger Woods won his 15th major, 81st PGA Tour victory. Congrats, Tiger.
You know it's big news.
I think he was watching today, actually.
I bet you he is. No, that's why I like. But honestly, because this is like a childhood hero for me. Like I was 11 years old watching Tiger Woods like dominate the field and like hit crazy drives, and like I've gone to Pebble Beach, I've gone to Torrey Pines. I've been playing for 18 years because of that man, and he overcame 4 back surgeries to like. And I got to witness that on my technology because I had technology. I was streaming it live, rolling up utensils, and just watching Tiger do his thing. So like I'm super grateful for that. But then there's like the other times where you know it's not so great. But so I mean I think again it always comes down to awareness and just mindfulness.
Yeah,
and that's what this whole practice is.
Right, exactly. And I think like my big sort of push for encouraging all you guys out there to consider doing the digital fast is like, see how it feels for you. Like I get so many different, I love telling people about it, like just saying like, so here's how it works. You know, what I told you guys, like Friday to Sunday, these things you can't do. Because some people are like, I do that all the time. That wouldn't be hard for me. So it's like, okay, well, you're probably not the target audience for it. Like, good for you. Like, you've got a good relationship, and great.
Yeah.
And then other people are like, I could never do that, and then everybody else is just somewhere on that spectrum, because what it forces you to think about is like, it forces you to confront what your habits, problems, not problems are, like just kind of imagining doing it puts you in that position. And I guess tying this back to what we were talking about, it's going to be different for everybody. And I would even say like, so if you do you guys mind if I talk a little bit about the weekend itself?
Oh, please, no.
Please,
We're
yeah.
doing that's what this is all about.
So I'll just so we've been talking about this kind of in the abstract here, but we good?
Yeah, keep going. This is,
Yeah.
But so we're doing this it's the Seacoast Digital Fast. It's centered in Portsmouth, but we're actually having some events in Dover and Somersworth. Is that the right?
I always say Somersville.
I'm still
Somersworth.
I'm still new to the area,
No,
and I
good.
say town names wrong.
Great,
Yeah.
no, you're killing it so far. Killing it.
But it's mostly based in Portsmouth, and it's the May 3rd to May 5th weekend is when we're doing it. And so we're setting up a bunch of events. We're having a kickoff at the Portsmouth Public Library. The mayor is going to be delivering an official proclamation declaring
so cool.
it like Seacoast Digital Fast
Yeah.
Weekend.
Oh.
We're having a DJ spinning records on Friday night at the Wilder.
Cool.
We're having a screen-free brunch at Liar's Bench. There's a bunch of events that we're planning
Cool.
for kids, for families, for people who don't have kids. Like, we're trying to get like as many different demographic groups involved as possible. And I've done this twice previously in Portsmouth, but it was very small kind of group of people doing it. And this is the first year where we've expanded it out. Like, I'm working with the school system, and like I've got like 8 area businesses that are offering discounts for people who, if you go on the digital fast, you get this button that says I'm on a digital fast, like a pin.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's cool.
assuming you're being honest about that,
Yeah.
we're just gonna take your word for it.
Yeah.
You get discounts at like the game store and the bookstore and like Gus and Ruby, like the stationery store. So it's like things that are kind of analog, that sell analog
Yeah.
products are giving you discounts. So anyway, it's a big, we're trying to make it a big event. You can go to our website and our social media to see
What's the website and social media?
SeacoastDigitalFast.com, and then it's on Facebook and Instagram as Seacoast Digital Fast.
I mean, I think this is a great way for everyone out there to push your comfort zone, because that's exactly what this is in my eyes. It's like your comfort zone is a phone. Like, we have all been bred in this new age, but that is your comfort zone. Step outside your comfort zone. Like, here's my personal challenge. Do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna try and do it before we leave.
I'm gonna say something
Of course, you
because
are.
we
That was
haven't really hit this topic yet, but so many people run their businesses from
Right.
their phones.
Yep.
Like, I personally would not have a business.
Right, because you're a
Wasn't
photographer, and so how does that work for you, like on a weekend, or is there no distinction
Yeah.
between the weekend and the week?
So my weekends are typically when I'm working.
Yeah. Okay.
Especially going into May. I mean, it's going to be a little different now that we are actually going to be getting into a bus that weekend now. So it's going to look a little different
Right.
than it normally does. But let's just say typically a weekend in May, I'd probably be shooting a wedding. So with that being said, I need my GPS to get to the wedding
Yep.
venue. I would need to have my phone on me in case the bride calls me or any of the other
Of
vendors
course.
call me.
Of course.
I mean, things that, like, I'm trying to see how, like, this can go, like, both ways, and, like, how maybe, because you said, like, people could maybe do this in a way that's, like, a compromise, I guess. Like, say you are a wedding photographer, and, like, you do need your, this
Right.
is just my example,
Yep.
you do need your phone on you for the
Yep.
weekend. Where are ways that you could compromise
Yep.
and meet in the middle? For me, maybe I don't need to share the entire wedding day on Instagram that day. Like, maybe I delete Instagram and Facebook off of my phone for the day. Like, I think there's just maybe different ways that you can look at it. Like, it doesn't have to be an all or nothing if you need your device that weekend.
Yeah, so I think that's a great, like, specific example of why you would need devices. So I'd say a couple things to that. I mean, if you're interested in trying to do the digital fast that weekend, I would say, can you make it a concentrated thing where when you're working, you just that's when you're going to be on your devices, and otherwise you won't be, right? So it's like, I guess, can you make enough? I guess you need to be available to the bride, like leading up to it, right?
Yeah.
But outside of that, can you put stuff away? And one thing that, you know, maybe just to try, like, can you get there without your GPS? Like, I think
No.
Definitely
No.
not.
I'll answer that. No, she can't.
100% not in a time like that.
I mean, I think some of this doesn't have to be serious. You know, I think some of it can be like, it's fun to try to use a map, and if you can't, go back to your GPS. But like, can you, like, for example, one of the hardest, I'd say the two of the hardest things for me about doing it are GPS and Spotify. I listen to music all the time, and I have just come to rely on my GPS. But I try, like you said, with your comfort zone, like, if you're working, it's different. I totally get that. Like, you have to be at a certain place at a certain time. But it is a really interesting, rewarding experience to try to get around, even where you live, without your GPS. You will inevitably end up somewhere that you've never seen before. And hopefully that's a good thing. Like, sometimes you're like, all right, I'm in a bad place, I need to like get out of here. But
I mean, we live in Dover,
but it's like, I mean, I did this when I first moved to Portsmouth, which was like a new town for me, and I didn't really know the lay of the land. And I basically learned it one weekend without my phone, because I just like let myself sort of explore, get lost. Like, I got a paper map. I asked people for directions. Like, when's the last time you did that? Like, it's a way of making contact with people.
Yeah.
It's a way, and someone will give you different directions than somebody else. So it's like, it's sort of like, it's the old school version of crowdsourcing, you know? It's like you're asking people on the street how to do things. It's like, and again, it's, you sound like a Luddite pretty quickly when you start talking this way. It's like, you know, like, just, you know, crank up your record player and
who like likes personal connection.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess my
I know.
my point is, it's like, you're not making a permanent change in your life, but it's interesting to experience the world without your stuff, kind of just to see if you can do it. Like, what would happen if it all went down?
But also, maybe you are realizing some permanent changes that you can make in your life.
Yes, and it never hurts to know how to get places. You know, like, I think that's just like a very concrete, practical example. Like, it is much better to just know how to get somewhere than to rely on your phone. Because I think we've all heard these stories about people driving into the ocean or driving into a lake because they were just following the little line on their.
Shut
You guys?
up. That's a thing?
Yeah.
That's a thing.
People have done it. They have driven like their car like across.
No.
Yeah, look it up.
I mean, people. There's like a lady that like walked into a water fountain in the middle of a mall because she was staring at her phone.
Or like someone who's driven off a bridge that was out of commission because the satellite was wrong.
No way.
And I think that's sort of like where common sense gets lost a little bit. It's like, there's what I see in front of me, but my phone's telling me there's a road there, so I'm just gonna keep going.
That's crazy.
You know?
Well, so that's like, I was driving down to Dover the other day, and I happened to we were sitting at a stoplight, and I happened to be sitting, like, looking in my rearview mirror. There's a really cute dog in the passenger seat.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, like, notice the dog. He was just like staring out the window,
Yep.
or staring out the front window. And then I kind of noticed that like the girl was like looking down at her phone, driving. And then the red light turned green, and I started moving. And then for a little bit, I realized, why isn't the car like behind me going? And the dog is like looking out the window, like, hello, like, why aren't we moving? Like, hello, sister, like, let's get going. And she's just like still looking down at her phone. I mean, that's not a big, that's a common scenario.
Sure,
I feel
of
like we
course.
all see that all the time. But the thing that just kind of like got me was the entire drive down Main Street and like to the highway, and didn't see this girl look up.
Right.
And I was like, are you just like banking on like the fact that like maybe you're gonna like see out of the corner of your eye like brake lights, and like what if my brake lights were out?
Exactly.
You know, it's like.
Well, right, and I think driving is a really that's a very.
It's like the one thing that really gets me is texting and driving.
But it's a microcosm of the way we live in other parts of our life too. It's just a particularly dangerous one. But it's like, we think we can always do more than we probably should because we can with our devices. You know, it's like I haven't done this recently, but like, you know, it's like, it's bad enough to be like reading things on your phone, but I've like occasionally had like little videos up while I'm driving. And it's like, what are you doing? You know?
In all fairness, like so, you know, I'll openly admit this. Like when I was younger, I used to drink and drive, and whatever, not great. But my father used to say, Sean, it's like playing Russian roulette. All it takes is once, and I think you can atone this to texting and driving or watching videos or whatever you're doing, because like. Again, another admittance here is I almost lost my life texting and driving when I was 22 years old. I was texting and it was about going to play poker.
Right.
Of all things. Like how important, like really was your losing your life that important to like, and it was back in the day when it wasn't an iPhone, so I had to like click 1, 2, 3 to get the right number. Like just stupid.
Higher degree of difficulty.
Sure.
Yeah.
Those are the things where and we've all heard the stories of like the 18-year-old kid that drove head on into an 18-wheeler to write okay.
Right.
Response, like really?
Because you think you have to do it now, or
like that. It's that push and pull of like, oh, I got to respond immediately. It's like this impulse where I've just tried as I've gotten older, just be like, dude, I'll respond like when I'm in a good time or when it's good for me, because like I'm doing something right now I'm valuing my own time.
Yeah.
Like just because you want it's this concept of just because people want you, like I hate to say it and this might sound rude, but I really, 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 truly believe in this concept. I don't owe anyone anything. When I give my time, it's me giving it freely because I
think it's much easier than we all think to train our friends and family that we do not respond instantly. Like you either reinforce you're going to reinforce one message or another every time you respond to something, and it's like if I consistently get back to you within 10 seconds, I'm telling you that there's something wrong if I don't get back to you in 10 seconds. If I don't, then it's kind of like, well, if you really want to break up this relationship because I don't get back to you quick enough, I guess you can do that. But you're probably going to be okay with it. Like, it's like, that's how I am. And it's like, I think we, not to be overly dramatic, but we sort of become, it's like we become slaves to our devices, and it really should be
There's a lot of art. There's a lot of art around that where it's like, it took out, I love that you said that, because there's this picture of my phone, it takes off like the screen, and it's like, it's just all these little people, and it's a jail yard. It's a jail cell, like if you allow it to be, you know what I mean? Like, and that's kind of like, I mean, I think like you said, dramatic. I think there's a lot of things in life I've seen as that, like where you can become a slave to X. It can be anything. And it's like, anytime you meet a new person, like dating too, I think you're training that person how to treat you. Like what's acceptable, what's not. And like, it's with everything. You are like, I think when you fully take accountability for your life, like you really truly start to begin to understand, like, I'm training my friends what's okay, like how I'm gonna respond, like what you can, like, I don't want to like say like walk on eggshells, but there's just certain boundaries we have to create with people, and I think it comes with any things in life, and this is an important piece of it, because honestly, I don't do read receipts. Like there's a like honestly, fuck that.
A what?
No, a read receipt. So like when you send a text message, like you can set it where like you can know I read it. Like no, fuck that, because that just creates all this like drama, and like no, I'm gonna like answer what I want, and I'm not doing a read receipt, because again, like I don't owe you an instant response or this response. Like I'll respond when I'm available, because my time is extremely valuable to me. And like I think that's another concept that's all put together here, is that like we live in a world where I think people like think we like oh you owe me this, and it's like people choose to do things out of like love or like want, right? Like no one owes anyone anything.
And I think it's good to sort of, again, kind of going on this weekend or thinking about how you want to approach it, to kind of let yourself choose the things you want to do, and also give yourself license to not be involved with as much as you are all the time. I think, I think about, there's the personal messages, but then there's just the feeds that we have in our lives. Like you have an Instagram feed, you have a Facebook feed, you have a news feed, like whatever it is that you follow, and these are like these like rushing rivers that are going by that you will never ever approach catching up on, and yet I don't know about you guys, but when I'm like scrolling through my feeds, 100%. I think in my head I'm like, I'm gonna catch up, I'm gonna like read and see everything, I will get caught up, and then I'll be caught up, and then what? I mean, but first of all, so what if you are? And second of all, you will never be caught up. And that's kind of like the absurd addictiveness of it. And like to just take a step away and say like, I'm just gonna let that river go by this weekend. Like check back in on Monday, see how much you really missed.
It's so interesting, because I think we talked about this last time we were all together too, but like I don't scroll through Instagram.
Okay, right, you said that,
I don't And I think,
maybe that's more of a generational thing because I've heard people say that.
Like, I don't.
Facebook? Do you do anything?
No,
kind of
I don't
scroll.
really scroll through stuff.
Okay.
Like I kind of say like I'm like a selfish social media user. Like
Yeah.
I post a lot of stuff on social media, but I don't really spend a
Yeah.
lot of time scrolling through
Right.
reading other people's things.
Right.
Like there's a
Yeah,
couple.
wait, time out. Why am I constantly getting messages from Adam Bob Mate? You're tagging me. You have to be.
So I was
scrolling
just
the
about
time.
to say.
Yeah, 'cause
I
I'm
was
gonna call
gonna.
your
I was
ass out,
gonna
right?
say like there are certain people that I know that I like to read their things. So I'll like search
So, yeah.
woman rising or like I'll search like whatever. Like
Yeah.
I'll search certain things. Like if I want to read my horoscope, like I know certain
Yeah.
things that people have like told me, and then I started following their accounts, and like I like the information that I'm getting from them.
Yeah, so that's much more mindful. Like you are targeting things that you want to read, you're getting what you want, and then you're like,
Yeah,
stopping.
I guess I know from, and I'm not saying I'm a good social media user because of that. I'm just saying I have different reasons for
Yeah.
using the tool, and like if scrolling might be your weakness, my weakness might be like maybe I just need to post a lot on social media
Yeah.
for the validation
Right.
or for the response.
Right.
Like like we all have
Mhm.
our own kind of reason for being quote unquote addicted to the tool.
Great point,
And
yeah.
I think off of that, also though, I do post a lot on Instagram and social media because, again, I wouldn't have my business and I wouldn't have my
Yes.
brand and it wouldn't be
Right.
what it is without that. And I also love writing and that is my tool for sharing my writing.
Mhm.
So I think it is just such kind of like a tricky topic because, yeah, I do have a hard time saying like how I would be able to take the entire weekend off of social media. I mean, I all the time take the weekend off of like Instagram and I just won't post, but to not use the entire tool I think it's overwhelming for a lot of people.
Right.
There's no right or wrong, right? It's just. I mean, really, the whole intention is to create awareness. This is what I
Exactly.
say. There's no right or wrong.
Yeah,
It's like
and-
it's what's good for you.
And so we are going to have an in real life wrap up conversation about the digital
Oh, so
fast
cool.
on May 7th. So the weekend is May 3rd to the 5th. Tuesday, May 7th at the Portsmouth Public Library, which is like our biggest venue, which I think is very fitting.
So cool.
There's just going to be like an open community forum for people to talk about how it went. And I don't know, you guys sounds like
wish we were
you're
gonna be
going to be
there.
on the bus.
Yeah.
But like the kind of stuff you're talking about, like I would love to hear. Like,
Yeah.
so how did the wedding go? Like, how was the weekend? Like, what did you
So I think.
what did you experience?
So there's another concept that's tied into this whole thing is that I saw not recently, like in the last few years. I don't know if it was like a scientific thing, but basically, like if you're taking a picture of something, you're only allowing your brain or whatever neurons create memory in your circuitry 50% of that. You only have a 50%. Like you will remember that 50% of if you would have just fully taken it in. And I think when people say, "Oh, I have a bad memory," like I want to challenge those people and like stare them in and be like, "No, I think you just are not present." Because I can tell you, like we have conversations all the time. She gets pissed off at me because like I can like be like scrolling on a phone and then she's like saying something. She's like, "What did I say?" And I'll just like repeat it back to her. I can do that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, then 3 weeks goes by and she's like, "Remember that thing?" And I like don't remember.
Mhm.
But if I'm fully staring at her, like when I am present for anything, everyone's like, "You have phenomenal memory." I'm like, "No, I was just present. So how are you not going to remember something you're present for?" At least for me.
Yeah.
That's my particular take on it. And I think when you look at like adding that to the scientific concept of 50%, like I just like and then when you think about posting stuff, it's like, why not just go in the woods and like go fishing and just like really soak that in? Like I just don't think we give ourselves chances to that. And it's like, because maybe you're like, "Oh, someone's on like some like yacht or party," or I don't know, making this crap up, but instead of being in that moment and seeing like the beauty and like listening to the rushing water and like birds and all this other stuff, I think we're taking away from like the beauty that is that present moment, and I think that's what could be so valuable for
Right.
this.
And I think there's like in that scenario that you're describing where it's like you're out somewhere beautiful in nature. And I think, the flip side of what you're saying, instead of just being present there, is to say like, why not also document this? Why not share this with the world? But I think you can, but it's almost like, why?
That's it.
Like there are professional nature photographers in the world who, let's face it, are probably going to take a better picture than you.
Yeah.
So why do you need to take one?
Yeah.
Like, so we know you're there. Great. Tell me about it later. Just enjoy it while you're there. Like, are you really like? I always think it's kind of strange when like some notable person dies and everybody feels the need to write some kind of a like eulogy on social media. It's like, yeah, we're all sad that Prince died. Like, he was amazing. Like, you don't have to write like rest in peace so I know that you know he died. Like, I don't know. Like, and I mean, I've done it too, but it's sort of like, why don't you just listen to a Prince song and reflect on it, like, instead of joining the global conversation, because we don't really care.
Okay, maybe though, because that's where a sense of community really comes
That's
from.
true.
Because
that's
as
fair.
opposed
That's
of
fair.
creating these like conversations on social media where we kind of find a negative topic and all revolve around
Very
that.
true.
Like maybe it's a blessing that we can all create this community about, because the tool's not going anywhere. Social media is not going anywhere. It's the world that we live in. It's the era that we live in. Like it's not going anywhere. It's how we communicate. It's how we create community. So if we are all going to gather around a cause of, wow, Prince died, like he was so incredible, blah, 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 look at all these kind words, like maybe that's a good thing.
Yeah. I hear you. And it does go back to that idea that like some people don't have a community otherwise. But I think we are a little bit lazy about letting social media replace a human community.
So in a perfect world, we're doing both.
I think
Because I think again, the tool's not going anywhere, and I know for me, I've met some really incredible people who have become my best friends and my like greatest community locally, who probably live 5 miles from me, but I met them via social media.
Yeah, and I think
then we've created that personal contact.
I totally agree, and I think one thing we haven't talked about at all is like activism. I mean, social media is amazing for activism and politics and kind of like getting people mobilized and informed. I mean, it's like, you know, I think we've all seen sort of politicians who are really good, or activists who are really good with social media, and that creates, you know, huge movements that probably wouldn't have even existed. So yes, I agree with you. In a perfect world, it's both.
I mean, but I think this is why like we can argue on both sides of the coin, because there's no right or wrong. Because like I keep coming back to the question why, right? Why? Like, what is your intention? So like, there's been times where I share stuff and like my only intention is like I just want to make everyone else jealous. Like I'm just gonna openly admit that. But then there's not. So then
it's good that you can admit that because we all do it.
Yeah, because okay, you do that, but then you're wondering, like, why am I sharing this? It's like, am I doing this because I truly enjoy it, or am I doing this for the intent? Like, ooh, look at what I'm doing. You know, like, what is your intention behind the action or the activity? And like, I've been times have asked this question in my head when you talk to someone, like when I go on a vacation or when I do something awesome, like, at least for me, I'm like excited and telling all the things and like all the details, and I get like really into it. And then there's other people who are like, oh yeah, this is cool. And I'm like, you just went to like Hawaii for 2 weeks and that's all you got? Like, what the fuck? Like, at least, I don't know, it's just like a question that comes to my head, that's all you have? Were you present? Were you on social media? Like, what? I just wonder what, like, what that's about.
And I think, you know, with your, I just want to make everybody jealous example, I think another reason why people do that is because everybody does it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like there are certain things where it's like, well, I never really thought about it, but everybody posts their vacation pictures, so I will too. You know?
Oh, and
I just think it's so
where
important to not view in social media in that light. Like I think it's so, if everyone can just change their perspective on it and use it as a tool to inspire and motivate one another, as opposed to try to make people jealous, like that, what a sick, twisted thing. Like that's stupid.
Are you calling me sick?
That's so stupid in my mind. Like why do we use it in that? Like, are we so unhappy with our own selves that we need outside validation? Why can't we use it in a way to like boost each other up?
Yeah.
Like, not look at my Hawaii pictures, I look like a babe in my bikini and drink margaritas all weekend. Like why not like find like some way to like use that in a positive way to inspire people?
Sure. And you know, it's not like jealousy didn't exist before Facebook or social media existed, but these things really allow us to like supercharge like
we can edit stuff,
bragging and
I think the other thing
that.
too that's so cool about this is that like it's just like if you see someone for the first time ever, like I don't care who you are, it's built into your brain, you make a judgment on that person based on a minuscule piece of information. Like they've been alive for 30 years, you're judging them based on 30 seconds of their life. And I think social media is the same way. You see a picture, like I'll bring up one that really like I think is annoying to me, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm constantly looking into it and reflecting, but it's like, what culture do we live in that like a girl that posts ass thong pictures gets like 5 million likes, and then Greta Thunberg, who's like an activist for you know, the planet and the
Yeah.
global warming gets like 2,000 likes for like, yeah, I skipped school today and marched with 100,000 students from 35 different countries to march on trying to create a world where I can live in my future. You know, and then like it's the girl that, again, it's like over and over again, like there's, ooh, beach bums, and we give that 5 million likes.
And I would say again, like, the social media didn't invent that phenomenon, you know.
No, but that's the consciousness of the cult. Like, that's a
but I think what becomes clear is that everything's so quantifiable now. You know, it's like what used to be sort of like, I have a general sense that people like this kind of picture versus this kind of picture, you know, whereas now we can say like, here's the hard data evidence of that, and that is both useful and also disturbing, you know.
Yeah. Speaking of useful and semi-annoying, Sean has this timer on his phone where it shuts his phone down after an hour and a half on social media.
Yeah, because I'm trying to limit my social media
Which is
use.
fantastic, but when I asked him to turn it off during Wildheart's podcast,
I don't know how to turn it off.
All of Instagram can see us.
See, we already went an hour anyway. It's all done.
It shuts right off.
Well,
So
anyway, well, that was. You just took that in a really interesting direction. I don't even know what to do with that.
you're gonna share that? No, but this has been fantastic.
Yeah, this has
It's
been
already
great.
been an
guys.
hour and 15 minutes.
I know.
You know, and this is, I think everybody has an opinion about this subject.
I know,
You know,
it's
whether
so
they're
exciting.
excited about doing this or like terrified or just angry about the concept. It's a very provocative subject. So
I think it's been really cool. So every week is just I love this podcast because every week I feel like sometimes it's a healing session, sometimes it like stirs this like activist in me, sometimes and like I think the internal for me has been really interesting today because like I think for the first time in a long time on this podcast like I wanted to talk over you so much and it has taken me so much to be patient just because I'm so excited. Like you'll see it if you watch back. I've been like on the edge of my seat like so excited to talk about this topic and I think that's been so, at least for me, being mindful of my own presence, like, cool to, like, literally wanting to be like, oh, wow, when I talk, okay, no, patience, John, patience, you're on TV or whatever, you know, like, whatever.
But I know you guys are otherwise kind of occupied and engaged the weekend of the digital fast, but I would just throw it out to you to think about like one thing that you can go without.
Yeah.
Like just like pull one thing out of your rotation of digital stuff and try that. You know,
I'm gonna try.
Because I know you're gonna have to have.
I'm gonna try my own digital fast prior to.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
That's what I want to do. Like maybe I'm thinking about doing like Tuckerman's one of these weekends. So maybe that weekend. So.
And that's right. And that's one other thing I'll say about the weekend that we're doing is I think part of the logic behind making this like a community event is that we feel that if a lot of people do it, it becomes easier because you alleviate some of the fear of missing out.
Yeah.
You know, because like hopefully some of your social group and your family or whoever are doing this, and so you don't have to worry as much about the messages that you're missing or the things that you're missing out on. But there's nothing stopping you from doing this any given weekend, right? You can go on your own fast.
Is there anywhere that people can, so again, we talked about this a little bit hypocritical, but not really.
Yeah.
After the fast, is there a way that people can kind of share their experience maybe on social media?
That's a great
hashtag or is there
question.
a
I mean, we
hashtag?
are using the hashtag Seacoast Digital Fast.
Okay.
I will be totally honest. I'm not great with social media, so I think as this event grows, I'm hoping to sort of build like more of a team to do this. Like this is kind of me and like a couple of key people like George Shea from the Portsmouth School Department and Laura at the Portsmouth Public Library are doing tons of work on this, but I kind of do the social media and the promotion, and so I'd like to be better at that stuff. So I would like to give you a really good answer to that.
Yeah.
But right now, I think we're just encouraging people to use that hashtag, come to our post discussion at the library, and then if you guys have any ideas, I'd love to hear about them, like ways we can keep the conversation going.
Absolutely. I mean, I think like post after the event happens, or after you do your own little social media fast, or whatever it is, if you can post about it on social media, which again is very kind of hypocritical, but again, it's coming back to the awareness and the intention around it all. And if you do want to post and share about your experience with it all, tag Seacoast,
Seacoast Digital Fast.
and it's the same hashtag.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Damn, share your
I
story.
mean, I think it's just a cool space to open these conversations.
Yeah.
I mean, I think sometimes when you post stuff on Instagram or Facebook, at least for me, it's just like open a conversation about it. And, you know, I try and always come at things from like, I just want to understand. And like, there's so many, like, I think the most beautiful thing about this is it's very clear that there's no right or wrong. It's what's good for you and like what's healthy for you.
Yeah.
And I think something I've been wanting to say this whole time is, you know, we all have an inner child, right? Whether you believe it or not, I think it's a very true thing. And you have to kind of make agreements with yourself. You know, it's like when you're a kid, your parents are like, okay, you can have a dessert after you eat all your healthy things, or you can watch an hour of TV, or whatever agreements you make. Like, you gotta make those with yourself as an adult, because at the end of the day, there's a kid that's like, well, why can't I just be on the phone? Like, that's your internal temperature, and you have to like kind of make those agreements. And this is a great space for you to be able to like find out what's a good balance for you, and what's in integrity. Because anytime like you start a new workout program, you're going to the gym 5 days a week. Like, well, if you don't go, you're only letting yourself down.
Yeah.
Just the same with this. It's like, if you go on it, you're only hurting yourself. You're hurting no one else. And
Yeah.
So
So what I would say is, if you're sort of on the fence about this a little bit and you don't have any plans that weekend, I would say Friday there's 2 really good gatherings where you can kind of get together and see who's doing this, get a program for the event. So we have our kickoff at the Portsmouth Library, 4:30 to 6 on Friday, and then
May 3rd.
that is May 3rd, Friday, May 3rd, and then later that night at the Wilder. DJ, you guys
So
know DJ Scooch?
Yeah.
So DJ Scooch, who is awesome, if you don't know her, is going to be spinning records all night.
So
You get a
cool.
free cocktail if you are on the digital fast.
Ooh.
So come down, see who else is doing it, and you know, maybe you want to do it, maybe you won't, but like, give it a shot, see
that's
who else
cool,
is,
man.
is
Yeah.
involved.
Yeah.
I wish we could go.
I know. Damn.
Bummer.
Well, we will bring. I really want this to be an annual thing.
Yeah.
And my hope is that it just becomes bigger and bigger. And my like vision for it is that it's like a festival weekend in Portsmouth where we have like bands and
Yeah.
keynote speaker, and it's like a big thing.
Yes.
So
That's
cool.
amazing.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We'll be on the lookout for that in the future. So
Yeah. My computer's about to die at 2%. And I don't want to lose all
hold
of our
on.
recording.
Quick.
So.
What do you believe living with a wild heart means? What's that mean to you?
Oh yeah.
Oh wait, I had an answer
You
to
had
that.
such a cool answer.
Yeah, my answer is it means that sometimes I'm late for work.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I was like,
And I want to thank you guys
Is
for
that
having me
because
on.
you're using your GPS, or you're not using your GPS?
Oh, wow.
You're using.
I'm just gonna stick with my answer.
no, honestly, it was such a pleasure having you, Jeff. I think this is such an incredible project, and so excited to like hopefully see it blow up into that big vision, because I think we need it. I think it's much needed to like start drawing to awareness this topic.
Thank you, thank you, and
Apparently,
Thanks for
Michaela
the good
just
work
like
here.
disappeared
Sorry,
at
the
the end of
computer's
this.
about to die.
okay, well,
Oh my God.
I think
Thank
we're
you,
good.
Jeff. Thank you so much.
Good day. Oh my
Thanks,
God.
guys.